What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Vulkan, and today we are talking about Gothic, the remake of the 2001 RPG classic. Now, I was lucky enough to get access to the demo a few days ahead of time so that I could play it and then give you guys an overview of what to expect. Now, before we get in, I want to address a few things up front. This demo is not a piece of the final game. It's not like a vertical slice that we typically see, but instead, this is a representation of how the game will play. We don't get to see or play as the Nameless Hero, and we don't get to experience all of the systems in the game. Instead, we play as Nyrus, a convict who is thrown into the mining pits. We get to explore a very small portion of the world, interact with representatives from the various camps, and fight some of the wildlife. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about how this experience will play out in the Gothic remake. So first, the world in the demo is gorgeous. Playing on epic quality, the game looks really awesome. It's using Unreal Engine 5, and you can tell, and honestly, I'm not surprised, right? This engine is just so impressive. It is just such an impressive engine. The draw distances are great, the performance is solid, the environments are lush and detailed, and it's just Unreal Engine 5 just knocks it out of the park every single time. Next, let's talk about the combat, because this is going to be one of the things that I think most people are going to be surprised by if they've never played the original. Combat in this game is hard, guys. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. Now, this isn't a Souls-like, so don't go in thinking, oh god, this is like Elden Ring or Dark Souls or whatever. But this is more of like, you can't just run into combat swinging your sword and expect to one-shot everything, right? You're not superhuman. You're not. You're a convict. You're a regular guy. So you need to be careful about pulls. You need to be careful about not being surrounded. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Choose your battles wisely. Make sure you're topped off on health and stamina and magic and all of those things before you go into combat. Now, that's not going to say like you're going to get completely ran over by a mole rat, but you could get completely ran over by a mole rat if you're not careful. And that's the point that the demo is trying to make. Now, in the demo, I was able to find a sword, a club, and a bow that I could use, and this handled most of the enemies that I encountered. I was able to either 2-shot, 3-shot a lot of these things, so there wasn't like a lot going on, but you did have to be careful. You had to block attacks, you had to dodge, you had to swing during openings, things like that, right? So just keep that in mind going into this, that this is not a fast-paced hack-and-slash type of game. Now, speaking of combat, you can also attack other characters, NPCs, in the game as well. You just need to be ready for a fight if you do that. Humans are intense, they aren't messing around, they will straight up murder you. Now, I accidentally attacked one of the characters because there's one of the quests in the demo, he wants to do a sparring with you, right? So he wants to obviously do like a practice fight. So I did a practice fight, I lost, and I was like, okay, well, I want to do another round. So I went up and I whacked him with my sword. He turned around, knocked me to the ground, and impaled me and took away all my health immediately, and just instant death. It was very rough, but it is nice to see that you can attack other characters if you want to, and I'd be very interested to see how this is going to play into the overarching game, and if there's any sort of dire consequences that come with that. Now, in the demo, we also got access to an additional support system called cooking. We can see this very basic system. It worked, right? It wasn't anything to write home about. You find food, you cook food, you eat food. So it truly is a cooking system taken down to the studs. I'm curious to see how this system is expanded in the full game, but just know cooking is there. Now, all in all, the demo is just that. It's a very, very small taste of what the actual game will contain, and I want to talk about the actual game a little bit. Now, I haven't played it, so please don't read into this. This is truly just me looking at what has been announced, what the developers have talked about, and what the press materials contain. So, the remake of Gothic 1 is a faithful remake to the original 2001 RPG. They fully rebuilt the game using current gen technology, such as Unreal Engine 5, and they enhanced the gameplay to match modern experiences. So a little more dynamic, a little more fluid, that type of thing. It's not going to feel so clunky and, PlayStation 1 2001, right? It's going to be a little bit more fleshed out. Now, we can expect over 50 hours of gameplay for the full game. exploring a vast and dangerous world known as the Colony. Now, the world itself is dynamic. It will feature NPCs that go about their daily lives, working, sleeping, eating, etc. Now, this is nothing new compared to other RPGs, right? Everybody's classic comparison, Skyrim does this. But I wanted to include this after seeing the reception to Avowed's lack of NPC movement. I wanted to include this because apparently there's a lot of people that really care about NPCs having their own daily lives. Now, in terms of story, you will need to choose one of the 3 factions to align with. Again, we don't know how this is going to come into play or how this decision is going to be presented, but they did say that this will influence not only the story, but also how your abilities and playstyle will develop. So that's another thing to keep in mind. This isn't just a story thing, but it also is going to have an impact on your abilities and playstyle. So choosing a faction, it's gonna be a huge decision. It's not something to take lightly, and I'm curious to see how they play and kind of scatter this decision throughout the entire story. And guys, that's it. I mean, right now, we don't have a release date. We don't have many details of what to expect from the full game, but know this, as someone who loved the OG, I am so damn excited to get back into this world and see how it's changed 24 years later. So I want to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about Gothic 1? Did you play the original? Will you play the remake? Let me know. As always, this has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.